Hey there, it's Elizabeth, and welcome back to another video. So it should be a Wednesday, and on these Wednesdays upcoming, I'm going to be doing a bunch of flip throughs. This is the journal that I used from June 11th through October 30th. And it got so chunky, yeah, I had to make a separate journal for November and December of 2022. So you all have seen the flip through of June, and I will have linked below the playlist for my flip through, so you can go back and watch it if you care to. And now I'm going to be flipping through the rest of this book so I can get it put on the shelf. So all I did for the closure was simply tie a ribbon around it. It's just so thick and chunky. Normally what I do is put an eyelet in here, and there was just no point because I didn't want it to break or, whatever. So the tie works perfectly fine. Okay, so let's see. We've already gone through June. And so here we go, July 1st, okay? Now, hopefully it'll be okay. It's super thick on this side. We'll see how it goes. Okay. All right. So, July 1st was a Friday, and my dad had just had surgery on his wrist. He had taken a tumble on the stairs, and yeah, so his birthday was actually the day before, June 30th. Yeah, his 79th birthday. Was that right? Yeah, 79th birthday. And so I think he had surgery on that day. So I chatted, back and forth with my stepmom to, make sure he was doing okay, but he was just resting. So on this day, I actually called him to wish him a happy birthday. And that there's a picture of he and I from when he came down to the Keys to visit us one year. And then this is just some personal journaling because, I didn't realize it at the time. Obviously, that was the last time I spoke to him on the phone. He passed away in the middle of July. And so, yeah, so July 1st, yep, I spoke with my dad, had a great conversation with him. My son and his girlfriend flew out to Chicago for the week. Let's see. Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. So previously, my husband also had surgery. And so my dad might have had surgery on the 29th. It doesn't matter. Okay. But my husband had surgery as well. Maybe that's what it was. My husband had surgery on his birthday. Anyhow, like I said, doesn't matter. And so the day that we went to go pick him up from the hospital back at the end of June, the AC was off, and it was off for a good 12 hours probably. And yeah, so it was so nice to have the AC back on because it's been a stifling summer. And yeah, had an awesome chat with Dad and Pat. And yeah, that's nice. Anyway, so I worked in my journal, and if you guys remember, and if you don't, I'll tell you, and if you're new here, welcome. We did a major move. Like, we had lived in our previous house for 20 some years, and we did a major move a couple hours north of where we used to live. And yeah, so we were still in the throes of that, okay? We hadn't signed the papers yet. We were still packing up. We were still taking things up to our new house and all of that. So it was a crazy, crazy time in our lives. And I no longer had a craft room at the house. It had all been packed up. And so I was doing, my journaling and stuff on the kitchen table, and I just wasn't motivated at all. Yeah, so did up some laundry, the dishes, whatnot. And then my husband packed up all the kitchen boxes. Yeah, and then we were making separate piles for the kids because they still had, stuff at the house. This is the back of my truck for load number 10 to the Salvation Army. Oh my goodness. I put, it amazes me how much crap we have. So it must have been hidden really well. Well, let me tell you, in our house, like my husband and I guess, my husband more so than me, are very much the same in that everything has a place and everything's in its place, you know. So we don't have like hot spots around the house, as the fly lady would call it. We don't have clutter in different areas, generally speaking. And so, yeah, but once you start, you know, taking out all that stuff from the place it was just, you just don't realize how much stuff you actually have. And then on this day too, we had the county came and picked up our trash pile in the front of our house. And let me, it was bittersweet because a lot of the stuff was like from the attic. It was from our wedding. It was from the kids, you know, growing up, some of their schoolwork and stuff. And I know you're saying, oh my goodness, how could you have gotten rid of all that? But well, number one, we don't have room for it. That's number one. The kids came over and, you know, they went through all their stuff, decided what they wanted to keep, what they wanted to give away, and or throw away. And so that's number one. And number two is because it was in our attic, it just got ruined, you know, from either the heat or insects or whatever. So yeah. And then later on this day, I was able to rest. My husband was having a high pain day, probably because he just overdid it. And yeah, and then I caught Allison, AJ's Inspired Life live. And so, yeah, it's always fun to be a part of the group. And yeah, and then later my husband thought that we were going to drive north again with another load. This was on a Saturday, like go up there, drop it off, and come back home Sunday. And I talked him out of it. And then I wrote later on, I wrote a decision we regretted. Yes, we did. Oh, and did I mention like all of these, like the months, the days, the numbers, they all come from Love Lynn's Life. Okay, I'm a patron of hers, and so yep, that's where they come from. In case you're wondering, this day was a pretty simple, you know, decoration, just scraps and some washi, a sticker, and then something I found online that I cut into strips of quote and a notepad paper. So yeah, we didn't do all too much this day. We went out and about, and we took Remy with us, our pup, and yeah, so yeah, that's all we did. And then we binged Longmire when we got home. We really enjoyed that show, Longmire, on Netflix. And he had thankfully Big Handsome had a lower pain day, which was great. And he only had to take Tylenol, which was wonderful. So there was that day. Then this was the 4th of July. We don't really do anything on the 4th of July. Here in the United States, it's our Independence Day, and a lot of people have like barbecues and, you know, have friends and family over and all that kind of stuff, you know. We just don't do anything really. But on this day, I did get this whole, it was like a kit, like a 4th of July kit from Sweet Brooke at Recreations by Brooke. And so I printed that out and made her little like tag holder and made this into a tuck spot. And then she had these tags, which I simply printed out and, you know, fussy cut the flowers and put this tag together. And then, yeah, I think I printed it on my vintage, I think this is a copy of the vintage, no, maybe it was hers. I don't know. Anyway, I didn't write on the tags, but they came out super cute, I think, these vintage images and everything. And then on here, let's see. Oh, my daughter was out of town. Yeah, she was over in Tampa, and she was on her way home, and her car started acting up, that stupid caliper thing. Anyway, so she was stuck over in Naples. And yeah, so they had the car in the garage, I guess. The saving grace was that her girlfriend was with her, and so she wasn't alone. A lot of times when she makes the trip over to the West Coast, she drives, you know, she just goes by herself to see friends and stuff. So anyhow, yeah, so, and then I ordered my creative cousin, who lives up in Michigan. She is a teenager, and she's very into journaling. And if you remember the whole sordid past story about my creative cousin's journal, which I have yet to make another one, yeah, that got lost in the mail. It was a beautiful book I had made specifically for her, chock full of goodies, and somehow the United States Post Office lost a medium-sized flat rate box. Yeah, so anyway, I ordered her for her birthday that was coming up. I ordered a journal for her, And let's see. Okay, so, and then later on, well, we binged again Longmire. And Big Handsome had made a huge pot of spaghetti sauce, and he was going to freeze it. And then, yeah, he ended up freezing it like in smaller, like 2 cup servings, so he ended up giving some to our kids and whatnot. So on this day, or this week actually, see, sometimes I would do just 1 day per page, right, like this here. Yeah, 1 day per page, and then I started just doing a whole week. So yeah, anyway, so let's see. These images are just a bunch of different stuff on here, right? Like stuff I've gotten offline, quotes that friends have sent me. This was offline. This is from a Mantra Wellness magazine. This is just from a magazine. I was in bed. I had a headache, sitting on the couch or chair, whatever. So on Tuesday, yeah, I was tired and I was feeling a bit low. We're still packing to move. And yeah, it was starting to become real. And yeah, it was just bittersweet, Anyway. And my husband gave our pupper a haircut and a bath, and he is like literally like 8 pounds or so. He's a toy poodle. However, you think it'd be super easy to cut the thing. No. I mean, he's good-ish when he's being groomed, but it wears my husband out, and it ends up taking forever. We ended up binging Longmire, of course. We packed the car up for another trip up to our new place, and then at this point in time as well, my daughter had already moved to our son's house. So we had already moved her over, but she still had to come back to, oh no, that's not what this is about. But anyway, I'll finish that story. Yeah, both of the kids were still coming back to help us when they could and get their own stuff out of the house, right? So this talks about she finally made it home from the West Coast. And just like any other garage she has taken her car to, they tell her there's nothing wrong with it. So, yeah. So then I had a migraine starting. We were binging Longmire. I was in and out of bed all day. I just wasn't feeling well. I was feeling very potsy, which is what I have, the chronic illness. It's a form of dysautonomia. And yeah, so still had the migraine on the next day. And then Big Handsome set up the boat storage because we were going to be getting our dock redone at where we live now. And it just kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed, much like a lot of things that are going on, throughout our country here. And I guess across the world, they can't find workers, the materials are delayed, whatever the problem is. So my daughter felt like she was getting sick again. She was just sick off and on for months. Yeah. And let's see. Okay, we're still in the summer, so she hadn't started school yet. Yeah, let's see. Okay, we had saved, some of the kitchen stuff for the kids, some toys from the attic and all that. And then my daughter had to rent a storage unit because over at her brother's house, he doesn't have storage, so there's just not enough room for all the stuff that she wanted to keep. So she ended up renting a storage unit right around the corner from where she lives now. Binge Longmire again. Woke up and my headache was gone on Saturday, so that's good, but I was still feeling potsy. And yeah, I was just feeling like antsy, and just because so much needed to be done. And the thing too is that my husband had surgery, hernia surgery, and just like, a week or two prior, and he was not able to lift anything for like 6 to 8 weeks. And so it was very difficult because I had to do all the lifting, and we just didn't have a lot of help. We don't have family that live down there that could help us. And my kids obviously work, and so they would help us when they could, but it was a lot, it was a lot. And then we went out later and ran some errands. I spoke with my aunt on the phone on Sunday, and then Big Handsome was in high pain. So that was, yeah, that was just it's just been a lot. This week, I decided for the next 3 weeks, because it was really difficult these next 3 weeks, because during this week on the 16th, we found out that my dad passed away tragically and suddenly. So yeah, I just yeah, and I'm not gonna go back and fill out these pages. So yeah, this is what I did. This is from Mantra Wellness magazine. I don't know what's going on, but it's a lot. Yeah. I was gonna journal about some stuff in here. This is my this is a paper from my Inner Explosions book. I don't have it here with me, but I'll put a link below explaining what it is. It is very helpful. And so, yeah, I'll put a link below to how to make an Inner Explosions book. And I do believe in that video, it kind of explains, you know, why I use the Inner Explosions book. And so what I ended up doing was I keep like an agenda, right? And I put my notes in it for the day. And what I used to do, well, previously, like I used to put notes on Post-it notes and stick them in my journal. I used to write with the friction erasable pens in my journal to put notes in. I used to, then I went to putting them on the notes section of my phone, and then I just, you know, little by little as time goes on, I just stopped doing that. So then I got a little like a diary thing, and so I would jot down notes in that. So what I did was I just took a photocopy of what happened that week and stuck it in my book. And so, yeah, so we did go up north and dropped off some stuff, and we had lots of help that day. Okay, so once we got up here, like, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law was here, my niece and her family, my sister-in-law and some of her children, and a friend were here. Yeah, so we had loads of help. And so they very, very quick got all the boxes in the house and all that. So that was nice. And I do believe we drove right back home. Yeah, one moment, please. Are you okay? Yeah, so I think we came right back home. My husband was in high pain. He had a doctor's appointment the next day, and it says I binged JJJ on YouTube, so that must mean Junk Journal July? I have no idea, because I don't even do Junk Journal July. But anyway, we were on to Blacklist on Netflix. Yeah, we dropped off another Salvation Army load, number 11. We went over to Sunshine's house to install a new disposal. Boy, was that ever disgusting. His sink had been, like, whatever. It was really gross. And, yeah, the rest of the week, like, my husband was in super high pain. And at this point, we were planning our summer trip. Oh, Sadie had, that's my daughter, by the way. I call her Beauty Queen on here. Her name is Sadie, but she had made a shrimp boil for dinner, and so she had packed, you know, like some lunches or whatever, and so she sent that home with me. And then, yeah, so we were just going back and forth over to Sunshine's, helping him do some stuff, install like refrigerator filters, I think, and change his disposal out, and I don't know what else. And then we found out, let me see, yeah, on this Saturday that my dad had passed away. So then again, you know, like I didn't really do all that much. You know, we were doing a lot of stuff. You know, we were setting up U-Hauls, and oh yeah, and on this day, like Salvation Army, we had ordered 3 weeks prior now, right? About 3 weeks prior, we had ordered a Salvation Army moving truck to come to our house to unload all the furniture out of our house. We gave just about all of our furniture away. And we're talking, it was like a 4-bedroom house with a, an office, you know, and it was a lot of furniture, right? So they called us up the day before they were supposed to come and said, sorry, we don't have a truck big enough. Now, they had our reservation for like weeks prior to that, and they call us the day before. Guys, we are fixing to sign papers on our house, and we still have a house full of furniture. And we were like, what are we gonna do? And so, yeah, so we had to actually go rent a U-Haul. We had to scramble, right? So we rented a U-Haul. It was kind of too late to really like put anything on Marketplace or spread the word that we had all this furniture, because like we needed it to be moved ASAP, right? And so, oh my gosh, luckily the next day my son brought two guys from work, you know, that were gracious enough to come and help. And my husband went and got the U-Haul. My husband still can't lift at this time. So the three guys, my son and his two friends, loaded the entire truck, and we had to take it all to Salvation Army ourselves. We were not happy about that, but we got it done. And so, yeah, now we'd had an empty house. My son brought over his like inflatable bed thing. It was like a twin size inflatable bed, most uncomfortable thing I've ever slept on in my life. And yeah, it was just, yeah. So we were there for like a few days, like 5 days in our living room with nothing in the house, you know, aside from a TV and this blow up bed, right? Gosh. Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Yeah, my husband wasn't doing all that great. Oh, then we found out my son had the big C word, right? And we were fixing to go on vacation soon, like a week later. Yeah, so, oh my gosh. It was a lot. It was a lot, okay? I'm feeling like so angry, and going through all the emotions, of course, of grieving my father's death. And we've got, you know, this stuff going on at home that, you know, it was a lot, guys. It was a lot. So then on this week here, again, I didn't even do anything, right? But on this week here, we were packing up the rest of the house, and we were signing the closing. No, we were signing on this day. It was a Tuesday. And then we ended up, oh my gosh, you guys, we ended up having to take 2 trips. Remember back at the beginning, I said, oh, my husband wanted to take a trip and I talked him out of it. Yeah, that was bad. That was a mistake on my part, because when we went to go make our final trip up north, like we were leaving the house, we were signing the papers, and then we were going to be finally leaving that house to move up here permanently. And we had so much stuff that we could not fit it all in my Suburban, which is what I had at the time. So we had to take 2 trips in one day, up and back, up and back. So up is like almost 3 hours, right? Unpack everything, go back 3 hours, pack everything, go back up 3 hours, right? Oh my goodness. We underestimated our crap load. Okay, that's what I put. So yeah, it was like a 9 or 10 hour day. Oh my heavens. We didn't get to bed until midnight. Oh my gosh. So yeah, the next day we were setting up our bed, or we could have done it that night before we went to bed. I don't remember. And yeah, so then we went around shopping, I guess, kind of to go get like curtains, and we were unpacking stuff, and my husband was hanging shelves and all that kind of fun stuff. Our beauty queen was out lobstering, having a grand time. Not up here, down where she lives. And poor Big Handsome was, yeah, not doing good. So I'm going to leave it right here. This begins our summer vacation, which I decided just to document in my regular journal. So we will get into that next time. I hope you enjoyed that flip through. Again, I will have all of my flip throughs down below in a playlist. So if you want to go back and see any of those and see how, you know, my journaling has evolved and changed over the years, go ahead and check that out. Yeah, thank you so much for your time and spending it with me, and have a great rest of your day and a wonderful week, and I'll talk to y'all real soon. Bye for now.